powerhouses that I have. Arafat Umar Naivala is a managing partner and risk and compliance advisory lead at Compliance360 Consultants. He has 19 years of experience in the EMA region and has worked with large corporates like EY, PwC, and Union Properties. Without further ado, let's start with my questions that I have first of all. So Arafat, my question for you is the introduction of corporate tax expected to have an impact on the economic substance regulations?
Thanks Fazila for the wonderful introduction. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. So as you know, and as you mentioned, like there is no law has yet been come out, but based on our experience, like what we are expecting is that the companies who come under the ambit of the corporate taxation, they might not need to comply with the ESR. However, as you know, like some of the companies who are registered with the free zones, they might be enjoying the tax holidays. So in this case, ESR will apply on them. But as a generally you ask, the people who are under the ambit of the corporate tax, they don't need to comply with the ESR. This is based on our expectation, because you know the law has not yet come out. So we can't say we are not sure about that. But this is based on our experience, like we are suspecting that.
Okay. Somebody's asking if we could define ESR from the chat box. Who'd like to answer that?
Shiraz, or yeah. I can answer that as well. ESR is the Economic Substance Regulation, and the main objective of the ESR is, as what Shiraz mentioned, it's a base erosion profit shifting, which was happening from other part of the world to the UAE. As you mentioned, like there was no tax in the UAE earlier, so there was a chance that some companies they park their profit over here. So that's why, based on the recommendation of the OECD, UAE government, they have introduced the ESR regulation. Whereas in this regulation, if you earlier than the corporate tax, if you are registered in here and if you are working in here, then you have to share the knowledge or share the data with the other part of the, other governments as well. So that was the objective of the ESR.
Fabulous. Thank you for answering that question. From the four panelists that we have, who has given feedback on this consultation agreement document? Have any of you given feedback? Yeah.
We not officially we have given from our side, but we are talking to the client and we are suggesting to the client. So we are expecting that those clients will officially submit their response.
Fabulous. What types of expenses are expected to be deductible for corporation tax purposes? Because I heard that there is no deduction for something like depreciation and amortization, which is so different to what it is in the UK, messaging us. And I think that's answered it really well, especially the fact about how dependent this economy is on real estate tourism.
I think, Fazila, this is linked to your previous question where you asked like whether they will take into consideration or not. So, definitely these things will be taken into consideration. And as what we know, the UAE government from the past experience, they are always taking care about the people, Yeah. So they will definitely take into the consideration about all the recommendations which might come from the businesses. So yeah.
Fabulous. So Arafat, will the income earned by a freelance professional be subject to the UAE corporate tax? Because the reason I'm asking this question is, what I'd heard is that corporation tax is not just to be paid by companies, it's by any individual who has a trade license. Partners within the partnership individually also have to apply to pay corporate taxes. I'm only talking for the UK because that's my experience, but that's a bit different to what it is in the UK. So could you just talk to us a little bit about who a taxable entity, corporate, individual exactly is according to the rules given?
Thanks, Fazila. It's a very interesting question, and I have received many inquiries related to that as well. So, as far as we know, based on the frequently asked questions and whatever the information we have received so far, so the free zone license, freelance license, it is subject to the tax. So anyone, I mean, you can understand in this way. Anyone in this part of the world, if he or she wants to do the business, and if he needs the license for that, so it is taxable. So anyone who is earning in their personal capacity, so there is no taxation on that. I mean, I can give you the example. If one individual who has some real estate, and if he's earning some rentals out of it, so as a personal capacity, there is no tax on him. But if he is doing any activity which requires him to get the license, then it is subject to the tax. So, I mean, globally, I mean, if I can sum up, the whole discussion for the freelancer license, yes, there is a tax. It's not a good news, but yeah, there is a tax.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. So if we just move on to a topic about corporate tax impact assessment. I have a question here, and I thought it was 9%, but maybe not. What is the expected, this is for Arafat, sorry. What is the expected tax rate for UAE entities that are part of large multinationals? Is it still 9%?
Not really. I mean, it's not that straightforward. So first of all, you have to understand the definition of the large multinationals. Who are the large multinationals, right? So the large multinational, as per the definition, if any multinational company, if they're earning 3.15 billion dirham as a revenue, so they will be considered as a large multinational. And as what Shiraz mentioned earlier, as per the base erosion profit shifting rules, which was introduced by the OECD, and UAE is a part of that framework as well. So BAP, in BAP, actually there are two pillars, which is pillar 1 and pillar 2. So as per pillar BAP 2, the minimum effective tax rate will be applied, which is 15%. So any multinational, if first of all they have to assess themselves whether they are, if they are fulfilling the requirement or fulfilling the definition of the large multinationals. If yes, then they will be subject to the BAPS 2, and which is they have to pay a minimum effective tax rate, which is 15%. And there are other rules will apply on them as well. So that's why, as what Midhat mentioned, tax planning is very important. So I think right now is the time where everyone has to do the tax planning as well, and not from the tax planning perspective as well. I mean, they have to look into their organizational system as well. There are so many things as what you mentioned. So they have to look into the different aspects, and they have to make a team, and they need to have, I would not say the consultant, but they need to have the subject matter expert, whether internally or from the outside as well. They need to have the subject matter expert, and they need to have the people who understand the system as well. They need to have the people who understand the taxation, the law itself, locally and globally as well. So for the large multinational, I think this is the high time where they have to plan themselves, and they have to take things into consideration.
Okay, fantastic. Raz, I've got two questions here. Will tax holidays continue to apply to free zone entities? That's my first question.
Because last time when I did a couple of webinars, we were keep saying that there is no withholding tax. But after this consultation document, there is a withholding tax. But the interesting part is it is 0% right now, but it might increase later on. So this is an interesting part, actually.
Yeah, that's what I also heard, and the reason for that being 0 was the potential to then increase it. At least it's there as 0 right now. Arafat, when will the corporation tax law and further details on corporation tax be published, do you think? Because we're talking about implementation for any financial years after 1st of June 2023, which is in a year's time, right?
I mean, based on the information or based on the communication so far, what we are expecting is, I mean, they were saying mid of 2022, it was expecting. So maybe we are expecting next month or maybe the following month, but not more than that. Yeah.
Okay, so that would give ample time, 10 months for organizations to get the house in order, look at the structure, etc. Yeah?
Exactly.
Arafat, were you wanting to add anything?
No, I think it's a very good point, what Medhat mentioned. And I think this is a very, very right time, because as you mentioned earlier, if you plan properly, it is very important to plan properly, because many organizations, they don't take it very seriously, you know, and they say like, okay, fine. I mean, first return will, you know, it will be applicable after 1 year, or still we have a 9 months to submit the return as well. But it's not about the return only, it's about the transaction. I mean, you are doing the transaction on a daily basis, which will be applicable from the next year. So if you don't do things in a proper way, on a timely manner, so it will be backlogged, you know, later on. So maybe you are missing out something over here, and then maybe you are catching up. So I think it's very important to plan properly. And
and being a lastminute.com and rushing things near the time is going to make you make mistakes.
Right.
And then there's a greater risk, business risk post that, on what could happen because of that. So, okay, good piece of advice from the powerhouses. Don't wait, start now. Somebody said, sorry, I'm already lost. So free zone companies exempt from corporate tax if transfer from mainland to free zone, withholding tax, yes, but at 0% for now. Did I get that right? Yes, you got that right? It's 0% for now, with the potential for it to increase.
Just a small piece of advice, specifically for the free zone entities. It's a very gray and very important area. So again, I would say like planning is very important, because it is 0%, but there are certain conditions. For example, if free zone company is earning the passive income, it is not subject to tax, it is 0%. And if a free zone is entity dealing with the free zone, it's 0%. If any entity, I mean the group company who is holding in the mainland, and if they're dealing with the free zone company, this is also 0%. So there are a lot of, you know, the requirements which has to have in the planning session. Even for the mainland company, if they want to do the structuring of their organization in order to make, I mean, take the benefit of the taxation, they have to have this thing in their plate actually.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I've got a question for a small business owner that's not a freelancer, so a small business. Say that, so they take a salary and all the profit goes into their pocket. Can they just pay themselves a higher salary and therefore have a lower annual profit and lower corporation tax?
No. Straight answer.
I don't think that would be the right thing to do. I think I could answer that.
I wanted to say before Medhat say anything. Yeah?
And then will the tax percentage be the same for all revenue brackets, or is there a plan to support SMEs with lower percentages in large scale organizations? I mean, it's not revenue, is it? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's profits up to £375,000 is 0%, and above no, it's not pounds. Sorry, I keep going back to my homeland currency. I constantly do that when I'm shopping as well. I still keep converting after 14 years of being here. 375,000 dirhams, and then above 375,000 is 9%. Correct me if I'm wrong, the expert panel.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the problem. Yeah.
Actually, people are confusing it with the VAT, because VAT is on the revenue and corporate taxation is on the profit.
Yeah, fabulous. Right, so it is 5 o'clock, and so it's the end of the session. I just want to sort of summarize it and then ask any key takeaways. So I want the panelists to think of one thing, one takeaway that you would give our audience today. Arafat?
Planning. So take it seriously and plan your organizational impact assessment. And as what Medhat mentioned, like you need to take it seriously, make a team, and get a flavor from the outside as well. If you bring some consultants, so you can get a flavor from the outside as well. And you know your organization better, so bring some people who are expert in finance and other areas, so bring them as well. So just make a good mixture of good skills and you will get a good result then.
Fabulous. Thank you. Fantastic. Really valuable words of advice from our 4 panelists. Thank you ever so much. I can see loads of comments of people saying thank you. Fantastic session. Thank you, Varun, for having me moderate such an exciting topic. I'm now thinking of all those days I was spending in tax planning, thinking, did I do right to have a career move when this is such an important topic right now going ahead in this region? But thank you to the panelists. I look forward to speaking in more sessions like this with all of you, and I'll pass it now over to Varun.
Great. Thank you so much, Fazila. Thank you, panelists. I think this was great learning for me being a business owner, and I hope it was great learning for everyone.